So I've been tagged in a handful of YouTube videos as of late, so let's talk about why I keep getting tagged. And of course, if you like what you see, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. This video is about top 5 undervalued comics. I have been tagged in 2 separate YouTube videos, one by Brandon at Mon Comics and one by Nate at Hall Yeah Comics. And both of them have tagged me to discuss about what I think are my top 5 undervalued comic books. Now, first off, go check out both their videos, especially Nate at Hall Yeah. He talks about The Tick. The Tick is completely underappreciated hero comic book series, TV series, cartoon show. Like, go see Nate talk about The Tick, because The Tick does not get enough love in this world. So I am here to talk about my top 5 undervalued books, and I'm going to start with not a comic book. I'm going to start with a magazine, actually. So this one here is 1984 by Warren Publishing. And so Warren Publishing, they are more well known for doing books like the horror book magazines like Eerie. This is Warren's magazine's response to the heavy metal series. This is their foray into science fiction, and I got this book here for I think $10 last year at a horror convention, and that's $10 Canadian, so that's like a nickel American, I guess. And this is just an undervalued book because of what it represents, both by Warren Publishing and also because of the amount of incredible artists involved in the making of any of these magazines. And for those who are not in the know, these magazines here, the reason why they were so big and popular is that once the Comics Code of Authority came into effect in the 50s, a bunch of horror book magazine or comic books had to go out of business, or they had to discontinue their lines. So EC Comics, who did Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, they did Mad Magazine. But a lot of other artists who were involved in those books didn't have anywhere to go because they were horror artists. So James Warren at Warren Magazine, he was like, I got an idea, guys. Let's just not do comic books and do magazines. And so that's where Eerie came out of, and that's how 1984 came to be as well. Taking these big name artists and putting them into magazines that they didn't have to follow the Comics Code of Authority. So these books here I always find are terribly undervalued, and this is the first issue of 1984, so of course just an undervalued book, especially since I only paid a nickel American for it, right? Wink. This textbook I've talked about a lot, but I'm going to talk about it again because I love it so much. It is Tales of Suspense number 49. Weird. So this book here is really big for a handful of different reasons. First, it is the first Steve Ditko, and really I think the only Steve Ditko drawing the X-Men. It is the first X-Men crossover. It is the first Avengers crossover. It's pre-Captain America. It is the first appearance of the Tales of the Watcher series. It is the third overall appearance of the Watcher. It is the second appearance of Iron Man in his Mark III armor here. So there's a lot going on in this book. And while this book, if you look at prices on my comic shop, for example, it is a relatively expensive book. But I find that this book is still undervalued because of all of the historical means of what this book has to offer. And again, I mentioned it in another video that this is around the same time as X-Men number 3. So X-Men wasn't number 4 wasn't out yet, and so the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants wasn't a thing. And so Angel in here is talking about the evil mutants, not even referring to the Brotherhood, and we don't even know who they are yet. So it's just a really interesting precursor to the rest of the Marvel U in such an early Marvel Silver Age book. So definitely undervalued, would recommend. The next book here is something I have talked about again, and this was most recently brought up in a video of mine with Wolverine number 180, in my opinion, being the first real appearance of Wolverine. It's accredited to 181 because it's his first full appearance. This book here, in my opinion, is the first... This one here is the first full appearance of the Juggernaut. They say issue 12 is his first full appearance, or his first appearance, but just like in Hulk 180, he appears at the very final panel. This is the actual first appearance of Juggernaut. If we're going to treat Hulk 181 as the first Wolverine, this is the first Juggernaut. But that's not the only reason why I think this book is undervalued. It's actually because of Werner Roth, who is the artist for most of the Silver Age and going into Bronze Age X-Men. And Werner Roth, I feel, is a terribly underappreciated artist of the comic book world. He wasn't, like, criticism aside for him in the X-Men series, like, he was a very dramatic artist. He wasn't really fit for action, but his artwork really carried the most of the Silver Age X-Men series. We do think of when we talk about early X-Men, you think about Jack Kirby, Neil Adams, Jim Steranko, you got Don Heck in there as well, Sal Buscema in the final issue, Dan Adkins, I could name a few others as well. But Werner Roth has been like the solid, consistent artist throughout the whole series. And this is his first work. I think is actually his first work back at Marvel, which was why he was going as pseudonym of Dick Ayers, because he was still working with DC at the time, and he didn't want them to know that he was working at Marvel again. And so this is credited as Dick Ayers, but it's Werner Roth. And so I feel Werner Roth is about to get his shine. I think of like how Matt Baker, who is a Golden Age artist, he's just kind of taken off as of late. Same with Dave Stevens, and then that's all good girl art. That's not really what Werner Roth does, but out of nowhere, suddenly there's a demand for that artwork, and from those artists specifically. I feel Werner Roth is certainly overdue for his upcomings, and so this is his first work on the X-Men, and also, yeah, I guess it's the first real appearance of Juggernaut. I mean, if we're gonna go play by your guys' crazy rules, then, whatever. This next book is something that actually Brandon at Mon Comics kind of touched on a little bit. It is Strange Tales number 83. And in this book here, Alright. In this book here, it is the first appearance of Grog. Now, Grog is not really any major monster in the Marvel universe, but he is a precursor to the Fin Fang Foom. Fin Fang Foom showed up in issue, I think it was 89. And this here, again, Brandon touched upon this in his video, which you can check out, but all these monster books, Journey in the Mystery, Strange Tales, Uncanny Tales, Astonishing, Astonishing maybe not the horror ones, but the monster books are very undervalued. And books like this, I find, are entirely worthwhile for all the reasons, again, Brandon talked about. They are the great bridge between the horror and the pre-code books to the superhero books that we have today, and that's why a lot of these characters have staying power. That's why Fin Fang Foom's still a big character in the Marvel universe. I have over there that Journey in the Mystery. That's although it's the first prototype Hulk, it's actually Zemnu the Titan, and Zemnu's still a character in the Marvel comics, as is Grog. So these types of monsters, while they're still pre-Marvel universe before Fantastic Four, they still have a major place in the Marvel world as a whole, and these monster books are definitely underappreciated. Would recommend. And finally, my last book is... Music's not gonna play? Alright. X-Men number 11. And this book here, I love it so much because... Seriously. That is just... I love this book because it is, in my opinion, a Golden Age homage, and it's also like a pre-code horror homage. And this is, I feel, the horror cover of the early X-Men books. This is such a bizarre cover by Jack Kirby, and it just reeks of early horror, and even in some way it has like an Alfred Hitchcock kind of feel. And if you look at the book, especially the building, there's a lot of lines going on in there, and I don't know if I can really get that showing properly, but there's just a lot of work going on in that building. And I always feel that this is just a big, like, it's a dark gray building. You have this bright figure in the front here. It just reeks of horror. And I feel like if you get rid of the X-Men title and you just make these regular people, this cover would be no different than a Journey into Mystery cover. Like, it really wouldn't be any different. And the Stranger himself is, again, his first appearance. He wasn't really like a major player in the Marvel world, but he is one of the major, when you get into the outworldly stuff, Silver Surfer, Infinity Watch, that kind of stuff, he's a major player in that. And so Stranger, I feel, is going to eventually show up in the Marvel Universe in the movies, which would make this book, of course, rise up. But I feel that the Stranger himself is just an undervalued and underappreciated villain. This book always seems to be going for relatively inexpensive prices, so I do recommend picking it up, especially if you love horror, because I could just stare at this cover and the details done on this cover all day, because it's just such a very interesting caricature of just the Stranger and just the synopsis of the city at the time. It's just such a weird capture of the world, and I just think it's awesome cover by Kirby and a very undervalued book. So those are my top 5 undervalued books I have in my collection. I mean, I could probably come up with another 5 easily, but those are the ones I felt like talking about today. So in this challenge, you're supposed to tag a few other people, so I'm going to try and keep it Canadian. I'm going to tag 1063 Comics, and I'm also going to tag the Colossus Collector as well. So if you guys want to make videos, feel free to do so. Of course, you guys like what you see, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the subscribe button here, and of course, we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.